we have Major General Richard C. Stotts.
So a hearty welcome today to General Murray, Dr. Randy Pace, and General Green, Generals Guidry and Green, Colonel Bob and Mrs. Phyllis Bishop, who I'm very happy to meet, and I'll talk a little bit more about Bob later, but he was my battalion commander in Korea, and he talked all the time about his wife, and I'm happy to meet her after these many years. So it took this event to get us together, but I'm happy for that. Sergeant Major and Mrs. Phil Krause and all of our distinguished guests. I'd like to thank, so all the thanks we've already, the DCAR hit all of my thank yous already except for one. Let's give a big round of applause to the Clear Lake High School faculty and staff for hosting us here today. What a great result. When I look out at the attendees today, there's elected officials, there's parents, there's teachers, there's family members, there's business members, there's folks from major universities and their boards of trustees who are with us today. You know, that's kind of unique. And if you look at a lot of our soldiers, most of them have combat patches on their right sleeve, which means they've served overseas in combat zones. And in many countries in the world, the military is something to be avoided at best, but in our United States, it's embraced and we're encouraged. And I want to thank you all for that, because that means the world to the soldiers and our civilians in the formation. Briefly today, 3 topics: gratitude and humility, celebration and purpose. And we'll do gratitude and humility first. A classmate of mine from West Point once famously remarked that if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, he didn't get there by himself. Ladies and gentlemen, look at my coloration. I am a turtle. Both beloved Ann and I were the most surprised people in the world when the nomination and confirmation came through. Well, Mike Quinn, my roommate from college, was probably more surprised, but we were darn surprised. And we're both from very, very meager origins. Beloved Ann is a naturalized U.S. citizen, went through the whole process, did the test, all of that. She's from a very small town. I'm from a farming family, and my soldiers have all heard this before, and civilians. I lost a sister growing up and 2 cousins. And so we owe a debt to the Army and the nation that can never be repaid. It can never be repaid. The 3 eldest children were born in military hospitals. They took me, sent me to school, went all around the world, and visited places I could have not imagined as a young boy. And as we say, though, we don't get there by ourselves. We're thankful for our supporters and mentors. First of all, I want to thank my West Point classmates, including roommates, USMA department heads, and people who have traveled literally thousands of miles to be here. So thank you to my classmates for the great support. Guys, you can do better than that, right? Thanks for the great support, classmates. I'll take it. And then we've got Bob Bishop, who's my battalion commander back in Korea in 2nd Infantry Division. Bob, give him a wave. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Bob. You know, we all have those military officers as very, very junior officers, where you're trying to decide. You get to that 4 or 5 year mark, especially in the military that a lot of us have been raised in. It's going to be 40 years, by the way, for myself and our year group in just a few weeks. 40 years in uniform. But you get that 4 or 5 year mark and you're trying to decide, am I going to stay in or not? And it's a leader like Bob Bishop who's the person who puts you over the edge and say, I want to be like Bob someday. And Bob's one of those guys. I'm going to mention some other names of people who are in our hearts today who couldn't be with us. Dave Key, Ron Vila, Bill Hand, Cece Adolfi, Mike Hoover, Dave Johnson, Al Grasso, Howie Carpenter, Barbara Moran, and Les Carroll. All of those of you who know the Stotts family know what a critical role all of them played in our lives. Beloved Ann and I are thankful also for the great leaders that we serve with today, including General Murray and Lieutenant Generals Richardson, Wellesley, and Lucky. And sir, I just want to say, I said it to you out in the atrium out there, what a blessing it is for us to be not only led by a great person, a great soldier, a great father, and a great grandfather. Well, he's a wonderful grandfather, I should say that a different way. He just had his 8th grandbaby this past Monday. Let's give him a big round of applause. We're also thankful for our parents who couldn't be here today, but we wouldn't be here today for a whole variety of reasons, right, if it wasn't for them. And beloved Ann and I are thankful to our Heavenly Father from whom all of our blessings flow. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a big round of applause to all of those supporters. And appreciation leads to celebration. Today, we are going to take the time in this unit to celebrate the U.S. Army Reserve's 111th birthday. It actually happened on April 23rd, but as this is the first time as a unit we've got together to celebrate it. The 75th is also celebrating its 76th birthday today, which is pretty cool. And the 75th, as you probably read in the brochure for the ceremony today, the 75th has units and soldiers throughout the United States. But we never forget that our headquarters and our hearts are here in Houston. I also want to celebrate our terrific soldiers. You heard some hints about it a little bit when the DCAR talked, but we have an amazing, amazing group of soldiers. In fact, Joe Murray and I were at an event up in Aberdeen yesterday. It seems like it was 2 weeks ago with the way the schedules go, but it was just yesterday. And I got up and I did my presentation, and he said, "Rich, I need to help you out." And he went and he started to talk about how great our soldiers were. And I tell you what, my heart skipped a couple of beats because I thought that was just awesome. But we've got famous authors, we've got investment bankers, we've got scientists, including the lead Navy undersea researcher. We have people throughout the innovation ecosystems out there, people that work in places like Oracle and Google and a host of others. Our Command Sergeant Major is the first female Command Sergeant Major at a 2-star level in the U.S. Army Reserve, the very first one. 7% of our soldiers have PhDs. 7%. I mean, that's just an amazing group of people, including, give him a wave, Chris Govicard, Dr. Chris Govicard, who's an adjunct faculty member at one of the largest universities in Texas. So my favorite book says, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And the 75th has an abundance of riches. And we pledge to use those to our purpose, which is to give exceptional support to Army Futures Command and the Chief of the Army Reserve. We're going to help the Army Futures Command in 2 broad areas. One, to develop asymmetric advantages for our soldiers, because the last thing we ever want to do is go into a fair fight. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to work through wargaming and analysis to ensure that we're not operationally surprised by some capability that the bad guys have out in the forest. Ironically, as General Murray has said many times, it is only by preparing for war that we ensure peace, because our preparation deters our adversaries. We have and will continue to provide subject matter expertise in critical technical areas to Army Future Command and its subordinate commands, and will continue to act as a bridge between those technology and innovation ecosystems that our soldiers, as twice the citizen, are deeply embedded in, and the U.S. Army. So not only do they speak the technical jargon, they're trusted members of those communities. They understand what's going on there at a visceral level, what the wins, what the pros, what the cons are. But these are battle-hardened soldiers who understand tactics, strategy, and doctrine. They not only speak both sets of languages, they understand at a hard-fought level in their hearts what those soldiers need in those field armies. And they are going to use that to ensure that in the next battles and future battles that we give our soldiers the best equipment and the best training possible. Now this last one's a little aspirational, and the DCAR talked a little bit about this. So when General Luckey took over as the Chief of the Army Reserve a few years ago, as a good guy, as a good Chief of the Army Reserve, he went and talked to all the 3 stars and 4 stars that he could. And he asked the question, he said, what's good about the reserves? And where could we use some improvement, right? Trying to get a grounding, get a vector on his 2 or 3 things he was gonna work on. And the anecdote that he heard from all of these senior leaders who were, you know, I don't call him this, I call him by his first name, Sir, but they called him Chip. So they say, Chip, when I was in whatever location overseas, in whatever combat environment, if it wasn't for Lieutenant Colonel, Major, Sergeant First Class, Private, and pick a name, had exactly the right civilian skills that I needed to accomplish my mission, I wouldn't have been successful. So thank you for doing that. I don't know how you guys did that. And then General Lucky would dutifully say, I don't mean to be glib, but you just happen to be lucky. All right, so the stand-up tour is safe from me, so we can safely say that. But we want him we want to be not only lucky, but good in this particular case, and we're going to work very, very hard on putting together a database of all of those civilian skills, certifications, qualifications, so that the next time when General Murray says, hey, Rich, I need this kind of person, we're able to go in and find 4 or 5 people who can fit those qualifications. We have people sprinkled throughout General Murray's formation now doing things, but we want to codify that. On a personal note, this is a deeply personal note, I don't know if some of you saw the slideshow that was there beforehand, and you saw one of the slideshow charts that had General Peterson on it, and General Lundy, and General Valesky, and Bob Brown, and all of us served together in Iraq for a year in 2008, 2010. All together, all of us at one place at one time. And while we were over there, we all attended 63 U.S. memorial services. And General Peterson and I often talked about that. That's something that he and I personally came back to time and time again. And he's the Div West commander and is responsible for the mobilization and certification for all of our U.S. Army Reserve and our National Guard soldiers passing through, actually the whole western United States. But I pledge to you that based on that experience, and I would tell you it's true for every one of those general officers, that we're going to do everything, our soldiers in the 75th with Army Futures Command are going to do everything we legally and morally can to ensure that our soldiers have the best equipment, have the best training, and all of the best support that they can have when they go into conflict. Well, no one can guarantee that there'll be no casualties or fatalities. No one can guarantee that. I can guarantee that we're going to do everything we can, that those commanders who write those letters home can say with an honest heart that they did everything they could, and our nation did everything they could for those young men and women. I see that Beloved Ann is tapping her watch, so let me conclude with a couple of items. I just want to thank my terrific soldiers and civilians in the 75th and my family for their steadfast support. I especially want to publicly thank Beloved Ann for her friendship, her love, her loyalty through challenges that few people outside of our family could really, truly appreciate. And people say that, but in our particular case, I really mean that. My favorite book says that a godly wife is worth more than gold and silver. Sweetie, you truly are my treasure. Thank you all for being part of today's ceremony. You made it special. Thank you for being here. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless the great state of Texas. God bless America. Thank you.